Welcome to the Honest Dog Breeder Podcast with me, your host, Julie Swan, where each week we dive in to discuss all things dog breeding so you can build a breeding business you love, producing dogs that fulfill their owners' dreams. I believe you can have an honest dog breeding program that also pays the bills. So throw those pods in your ears while you're cleaning kennels. I'd love to join you. You guys are in for a treat today. Today we have my dear friend, Courtney Guthrie of Desert Canyon Canine. Courtney, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Hey.
So tell us, how did you get started in dog breeding? Because this is not new to you. You've been doing this a while.
Oh, yeah. I got started back in 2007. I met my first mentor in working line German Shepherds, and that's when I really got super interested and like going in the breed. I really pretty much owe everything that I have in Shepherds now to her. Like, honestly, she gave me so much of her knowledge and pedigrees and like buying and importing and just raising litters and the things that you do, the way you do things and stuff like that. I got my first working line Shepherd from her, and I've been in it ever since. I did Schutzend back when it was Schutzend, and then it went to IPO, and I think now it's like IGP or whatever it is. And then I recently moved to PSA, and I'm probably going to switch back to like IGP because it's a little more common down here.
Sure.
And just for ease of training and stuff like that, with having a kid and school schedules and sports schedules and
Kids
time.
Change the dynamic a little bit with breeding.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Schedules.
And so you're busy too, because you're often doing training. How often? Like, is it like weekly or multiple times a week or?
Yeah, I mean, with my current dogs, I train them daily, just to keep them busy. So I train each of them daily for, it ends up being about an hour a day-ish. And then I have other breeds too, because I'm kind of eclectic. So I like a lot of different breeds. I'm a dog groomer by trade, so being a dog groomer, you get to experience a lot of different breeds, and you only get a short amount of time with them, but you really get to experience a lot of different breeds and really cool breeds. So I also have Caucasian Ovcharkas.
Which are, can you tell us, because people are not familiar with that?
So they're Russian mountain dogs or Russian bear dogs is what they're commonly known as. Caucasian Shepherds.
They look like giant bears too. Like, they're crazy.
Yeah. Our neighbor literally stopped and asked us one day, they're like, "Is that a bear?" I'm like, "No, we don't have a bear in Arizona. We're not walking our bear around our yard. No." We're not quite that crazy. I mean, a little bit. I mean, okay, maybe if we could, but
right.
So I have 4 of them. Wow. 3 right now, soon to be 4. So I'm kind of delving into them. They're kind of my new venture. They're really cool. Funny enough, they're what most people would say are a lot harder than the German Shepherds. I find them so much easier than Shepherds.
What's different?
They're easy. They're super independent because obviously they're like a property guardian, livestock guardian type style dog. They were bred to be estate guardians. So they're bred to be independent workers, just patrolling. Training wise, that means like at food time, yeah, they're going to be at your door, waiting for their food. But otherwise, they're not under your feet. They're not under, like, constantly wanting your attention. Like,
Yeah.
they're off doing their own thing, what they're supposed to be doing. They're just a real different energy.
Mhm.
But then, like, when it comes time for them to run off a coyote or there's someone walking past or something,
Right.
they're very quick to react. So
Yeah.
it's really cool just to watch them.
Yeah. Do you
Um,
think people get frustrated with it? Because I've noticed with my livestock guardian dog, he's just such an independent thinker that he could kind of care less what I was doing. And I think some people like, because I'm like, if we did training, like he doesn't know how to sit. He doesn't know how to, he comes when I call him. He likes to get pet. And he's like, I'll handle everything else. You just stay over there. Like
yeah,
it's a very different relationship compared to like, say, a German short hair who's like, did you want to hang out with me now? Can I sit with you?
yeah,
Can I touch you? Yeah, it's very
yeah.
different.
And people get frustrated with them because they don't. Um, I don't think people. I don't think people respect them for what they are. I think people want a cuddly, fluffy bear, and that's not really what they are. They're a working dog. They're That's what they're bred to do.
Yeah,
They're bred to patrol and hang out over there and
right.
just be
And
there.
they wouldn't be good if they were that cuddly attached to your dog that they wouldn't do their job right.
Right. Right. Yeah, they're pretty. I'm really finding a lot of fun in them and, like, watching them. Right now I have my oldest females from Russia. I have my youngest females from Poland, and then my male is from Romania. And then I have another male that's from Serbia.
How was it importing? Was
So,
it hard?
um, thankfully, I didn't have to do any of the importing, so I have
Okay, you
some
got
really great
lucky.
friends.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. I know
yeah.
like some breeders like I talked to, they're like, "Oh, well, I speak Russian." I'm like, "Oh, well, that's convenient." They're like, "Yeah, it's not a big deal." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
No, I've been really, really blessed with some really great friends in um, in the dog community along the way. Like, as much as people can say the dog community's a lot of bad, there's a lot of good to be found in it too. And I've been really blessed. So
That's awesome. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's good. But you're so generous with your information and knowledge anyway, so I'm sure you're giving it back.
I try.
That's good. All right, so you have, oh, I'm going to say their name, Caucasian, what is it?
Caucasian Ovcharkas.
Ovcharkas. And you've got German Shepherds,
Yeah,
and those are your main ones. And you've bred a couple
yep,
other breeds. So, you've
yeah,
got a Frenchie litter for, with
yeah.
point
We
and
have a little French bulldog, and then we have a bull terrier.
oh yes. Yeah.
Just randoms.
Yeah.
Um,
Dogs though. Mm-hmm.
yeah, they are really cool. Yeah, the Frenchie, we I thought that I might want to breed Frenchies. I didn't. That was a really bad idea. I didn't want to breed Frenchies. I don't think anything requiring a C-section is
Just
not
not
for
for you.
me.
Yeah.
No. Um, there's something to be said for natural births, for sure.
It's a lot
They're
simpler.
they're so fragile.
Yeah.
We lost the whole litter.
Oh,
Um, yeah, within hours. It was probably one of the most traumatic litters I think I've ever experienced.
yeah.
I would, yeah, we spayed our French bulldog. Um, in fact, we actually spayed her at the time of the C-section
Yeah.
because once I was, like, realizing, like, okay, we're gonna have to have a C-section. If we want to breed her again, it's gonna be another C-section. Like, that's another surgery, another putting her out under. Like, it's just not worth it at the end of the day to me. Um, because at the end of the day, as much as I'd like to say, like, that this is a business and that, like, I really do this because I love the dogs. Like,
I
I
know.
love the dogs. We like having them.
Yeah.
We love them.
Yeah, and I
And
know, and I think you've always had such a love for dogs as a whole because I
yeah,
remember we were talking for a time. You're like, I think you were frustrated with the German Shepherd community because they are special. We'll get into that in a bit, but you you love so many, you've been exposed to so many different breeds, you were like, maybe I just need a different breed. And it was really hard
Yeah.
because you loved so many breeds. Like it wasn't like none of them really tickled your fancy. It was like a lot of them did.
Yeah, and that's true. Before I had shepherds, I had pit bulls.
Mhm.
I started I actually started Schutzen with a little pit bull. Her name was Red. She was the coolest little dog, 40 pounds of muscle and amazingness. Yeah, she was awesome. We used to go to Schutzen, and she'd go out and do bite work, and then she'd go sit in the driver's seat of the car and just sit there and watch. Like, she was the coolest dog ever. Um, the reason we actually went to Schutzen was because we got kicked out of the local AKC club because she was dog aggressive.
Oh,
Um, and I couldn't figure out like how to train her
yeah.
to get rid of, like, to be able to manage this dog aggression.
Right.
And I had come across this Schutzen club
Mhm.
that was training at a local park, and I was watching them, and they invited me to join them, and I trained with them for a while, and then I actually went back to the local AKC club and was able to rejoin them with Red, and she went on to get her. We got a BH, we got a CD title. Um, she had so many dock diving titles.
Oh,
Yeah, we did so much together. She was the she was one of the coolest little dogs ever. She
yeah.
went to she went to college with me. She lived in New Mexico with me when I moved to New Mexico. Like, she was cool. And that's the little dog that really got me started. I got her in 2004,
Yeah.
and I've been doing, so 20 years I've been doing dog sports
Wow.
of some sort.
And so that was
Yeah.
cool to see, and there is, I guess, temperament breed components, right, that happen. But you just found an outlet
Yeah.
for those drives, and then she was more satisfied, and that worked.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, I think finding the right training approach and being open to using different training approaches and like different methods and stuff, um, you being more open to using different tools. Um, the AKC club at that time was more, at that time, they were more old school, just choke chains.
Mm,
They didn't want to use like any kind of like prong collar or anything like that.
yeah.
And the Schutzen Club was a little more open to like prong collars and things like that. But they were also a lot more open to, the first thing they suggested to me was going and getting a DVD called Ivan Balabanov's Training Without Conflict.
Hmm.
It was his very first video that he
Okay.
ever did. And he's a world level trainer.
Mhm.
And he, it's actually like, there's no, the, it's called The Game. There we go.
Yeah.
And you, you actually don't really have like a leash on the dog when
Mhm.
you do it. At first, you do it at home in your yard, and you have a toy, and it was really cool. And it helped just build relationship and like control through play and relationship and engagement. And like, that was really my first introduction into like real training, I think.
Yeah.
And the training director at that time, he's actually passed away now, unfortunately. He was one of the best mentors I ever had.
Mhm.
And he really opened my eyes to a lot of
Yeah.
training, just being more open to different training styles and different training things.
Yeah. Well,
Because
I noticed like with you, like Ted, just wanna like I was kind of afraid of German Shepherds. I know it's like kind of embarrassing, but it's true. Like I just think
I
like
didn't know that.
Dobermans, both of them, like
Oh,
we have a friend with Doberman, and she her dog would look at me and I was like, I don't even know if there's a soul in there. Like I was afraid near him and it was so bad. And I'm trying to be calm, like I'm cool. But and so there was this kind of level of fear. And Ted, your shepherd that you had, he was like,
Yeah.
just he changed my mind on German Shepherds because I was like, oh, these can actually be like really cool, loving, super awesome dogs. Like I knew people loved them, but I was always like, they seem so scary. And then, but you would have him, we'd go have coffee and you just have him, he would literally just sleep under your feet at the coffee shop and he could care less what was happening. Your daughter was little at the time, she'd climb all over him. He didn't care. He thought it was the best thing ever. Like, he sold me on what a German Shepherd could be.
Oh, that makes me like feel really good because that is literally like what Ted is what I want all of my pet puppies to go home and be for all of their people. Like that's my goal. If
Yeah.
you tell me you want a pet puppy, like if you put in the work in the beginning of taking it to a puppy class and like just doing a basic obedience class with it afterwards,
Mhm.
you'll be golden. You'll be golden. Just do maintenance training with it in between, like, and take it places with you. Just take it places with you.
Mm-hmm. Like not formal training at all. That was what I realized.
Like,
That you literally had Ted with you everywhere. We would go have the kids at the park. Ted was there. We'd go to
yeah,
coffee. Ted was there. It was like everywhere we went, he just came with you, and it was no big deal. And he
that's
was amazing.
that's what I do is I just take them. Just take them everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go so that they learn that it's nothing is a big deal. Instead of socializing, I call it neutralizing. Like, I don't really care if they're social to anything. I want them to be neutral to everything. I want them to not care about anything around them.
Yeah. Just
So
not
that,
reactive, right? Like that's all.
yeah, because shepherds have such a bad reputation for being reactive. And rightfully so, because 90% of the ones you see in public are reactive, that they're either barking at you or barking at your dog. One of
Right.
the two.
Right.
You know, they're known for being reactive. And with that, the more you get them out as babies, the less reactive they're going to be as adults.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you put in the work as babies, they'll be better. But trying to get your puppy people to follow through with that, a good portion of them do, but there's always those that life happens, they fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
Most of them are fine, but you always have one or two that probably struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Knock on wood, I've mine have all been pretty successful,
Yeah.
you
What
know.
have Do you have
So
any tips on that? Like how do you get your people on board? Because that's something that is, especially for those breeds, I always think of like Spider-Man, like great power comes great responsibility. And it's like to me, a German Shepherd is kind of great power, but that's a big responsibility. How do you get them on?
I so one the first I wasn't really sure how to do it. And then I bought the first Caucasian Owtarka male that my mom and I went in together on, had a contract that came with him that had in it a liability clause. And in it read pretty much that, if you don't do the right thing with this puppy from the beginning, it's your liability. Like, this dog could become an inherently dangerous animal if you don't do what you're supposed to.
Yeah. And so that kind of caught your attention.
It did. It really caught my attention. I'm like, you know what? Like, this is probably one of the smartest things I've ever read in a contract. And so I stole it out of the I stole it. Thank you. It was a great idea. And I put it in my contract. And so I just have a liability clause in it now that it pretty much states, like, if you don't take your puppy to a puppy class, like, the liability waiver covers myself, my husband and my child, against any kind of litigation that could happen because
Sure.
of your negligence.
Sure. And so that is
you
something
know
to put in. So they're signing this. And so this is already bringing their attention
yep
to, hey, this is a thing. And
yep
so to kind of bypass any extra struggle. So now their attention's caught. And then do you follow through with conversations on them? Maybe not in a scare tactic, but like, because I know for me, I'd be like, I like this, but I want it to be like Ted. So how do I do that?
I always I always send a text like before the puppy goes home
Yeah.
of, hey, you know have you looked at like local puppy classes? Have you found any local puppy classes? Are you having trouble finding any? Do you need help?
Mhm.
If they have found some, I always ask them like,
Yeah.
do you need help? Like, because I'll be honest, like for my puppy people, like I'll pay for their puppy class. Like straight
Yeah.
up, like I'll pay for their puppy class. Literally.
Got it.
If it
Just so I can
means,
get it done. Yeah.
yeah, if it means my puppy has a great home that's gonna love it and care for it for the rest of its life, if it costs me $200, like it costs me $200.
Hmm.
That dog has a great home.
Yeah.
That is a breeder, like that's just, and this is where like it's this is where like it's a heart venture for me. And so it's I do that a lot of the time. I also will like send them a referral list. Like if they're in an area where I know a lot of trainers,
Sure.
I will like send them a list of, hey, like you're in an area where like I know a lot of really good trainers, like
Yeah.
here's their names, like feel free to contact any of them and tell them I referred you.
Hmm. Yeah.
I do a lot of that. Like I always message them, hey, if you have any questions, you can always text me, call me anytime. Like I
Yeah. And you
you
usually have great stuff. I mean, you've helped me on so many occasions with training issues because we all know I suck at training. So it's good. I mean, I'm getting better, right?
your dogs aren't that bad.
No, they're kind of
They're
like
good
they're
dogs.
temperamentally easy.
They're
Like,
great dogs.
yeah, they're good most of the time. They make me look better than I am. I'll put it that way. It's not me. But anyway, yeah, so I agree. But yeah, you are so generous with the information. So I like that. So you catch their attention in the contract and then you talk to them, you prompt them, and then you sort of make it like almost like a, hey, have you got this puppy class organized? Have you figured out what trainer you're using? And so you sort of make it a standard that training isn't like are you going to do training? It's where are you doing training?
Yeah.
I like that.
It's
That's
it's
good.
not a it's not a are you, it's a
Mhm.
when.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's
Yeah.
perfect. No,
It kind of helps people, and there are some people they want to do it themselves, and I'm fine with that. Like it's they're going into this knowing like this is what needs to be done, so this is what you need to be doing.
yeah.
So you know a lot of people that have had shepherds before, like they
Hmm.
don't necessarily need
The
to
extra
do a
stuff.
puppy
Yeah.
class.
Yeah.
They already they take them everywhere. They do what they need to do.
Mhm.
They know how to do things. So it just really depends on what the person's looking for too.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
I
like what they're
really
ultimately getting the dog for.
right. I really have to say it, and it's probably not fair in some ways, but I am a little harder on people with kids. I feel a little bit more strongly about, if you have kids, like, no, you really need to be doing your due diligence that that dog is safe with kids. Like, you really do. Like, because dogs are dogs and kids are kids. And, you don't need a dog that you have to manage around kids.
Right.
I I have a daughter, and there's not a dog at my house that I am worried about biting her.
Right.
Like they're, they might bite each
But
other, but then they would never bite her,
right. You've put the time in with them to create that predictability.
Right. And that's super important. These dogs are powerful. And I think we as people need to respect that. I think we get too cuddly fur mommy-ish sometimes with these bigger, more powerful breeds. And we forget that a little bit, and we don't respect them for what they are. Yeah. And it's not that they're dangerous. It's that we need to give them the respect that they also deserve.
Sure.
And
it's like a guidance. You're setting a standard. I think one of the things that I struggle with on some of the pure positive training ideas is that you're not teaching what's not acceptable. It doesn't mean that you're beating the dog for doing something that's wrong.
Right.
But you are saying, hey, that's not cool. I would like you to do this instead. And even if that's just a sound and or something, just so they're aware this is not an okay behavior. And so I do find that like that's good parenting with my kids too. Like if my son starts lighting fires in my kitchen, I'm gonna have to say, hey, Hunter, we can't do that. We need to.
Right. That's right.
And I think a lot of those dogs, like shepherds, they're intelligent. And they figure out my latches a lot faster than my short hairs. I'll just put it that way. But
right. Ted literally opens our doors. Like Ted opens our doors. He opens our doors, lets himself in and out. Like,
yeah,
they are extremely smart. And you have to put in the time. Yeah. You got to put in the time. And it's a lot more time than what people think it is.
Could you give us an estimate on like what that kind of would be the first maybe 6 months having the dog?
If you're raising a puppy for working, working puppies, I recently outlined for someone that, a working puppy, like, you really, like, it takes a lot of time. When you get up in the morning, like, it's not you get your cup of coffee, you throw the dog in the yard. No, you get up, you take that puppy out on a leash. Like, so it's learning to potty on a leash. It's pottying on command. Like, because if it's a working puppy, you're going to trial it. It's going to a trial.
It's going to be on a leash. Yeah.
It's going to travel. Like, you're doing a lot with it then. So you're getting up, you're taking it out on leash. Like, then you're going back in, you're going to feed it. But you're not just going to feed it in a bowl or putting it in its crate. You're going to feed it by hand, luring obedience. So that's 5-10 minutes.
Yeah. Then
you're going to take it back outside so it can go potty. If you're lucky enough to have a kennel run, you'll put it in the kennel run. They can spend some time out there, and then you'll go inside for a little while.
Yeah.
But it adds up. Like, it's for a working puppy, like, if you do it right, in my opinion, you're looking at 3 to 4 hours a day, solid,
And that's just like, but it's with you, right?
Yeah.
It's not that I'm dedicating staring at the dog for 3 to 4 hours. It's like
it's broke up throughout the day.
It's here. And so it's like maybe 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, but it is all day. And I definitely see that. Do you find that in addition to like the feeding by hand, do you find that that's also bond building, that they kind of start to pay attention to a lot more?
Yes, that's where you build your focus. And too many people, like, they don't do that. And you can tell in their obedience, and I can pick it out immediately. I can tell exactly who has done it and who didn't do it.
And what do you see?
Because they don't have the focus. The puppy doesn't have the focus.
On the trainer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you can tell immediately, like, the focus is all over. Whereas if you've been doing it, the puppy's focus is a lot more on the trainer, because all good things come from the trainer.
Yeah.
That puppy has learned, oh, good things come from you. They don't come from over here, they come from you.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
That's, yeah, it's a
Building
big
that
difference.
relationship. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And that's where you get, if you're building a working dog, like that's where you get that extreme focus that you see in like the really focused heels and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So
But anybody with a dog could use this to build that bond and just get that attention.
absolutely. Absolutely. My the pet puppies that I send home
Hmm.
for families, I recommend that the families hand feed their puppies
Hmm.
and that they go in a circle. Each member of the family feeds them.
Oh, like each day you alternate
No,
or
every person
like in the morning? Okay.
in the morning and at night, or at night.
Hmm.
You know, if morning is too hectic or chaotic because of work and school, you
Yeah.
know, at night, do it just once a day.
Hmm.
Everybody in the house, you know, go in a circle. They each feed a handful out of that bowl. It helps build the bond with the puppy,
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. It just gives
you
them,
know.
yeah, I did that just recently with an older puppy that I had returned to me. And he now, like, I'm my sliding glass door, the puppies are outside, the dogs are outside and they look at me and he just stares at me all day. He's all like, "Hi, when are we hanging out again?" It's
Yeah.
really interesting how much more focus I got from him just doing that for 2 or 3 days.
It doesn't take much, you know, and that's why I tell like my puppy people, I'm like, just do that a few days and they'll, you know, follow you. And I also tell, you know, I'm not a breeder that tells parents like, make sure, you know, you keep your puppy and your kids separate and, you know, that kind of, I'm like, yeah, give the puppy a break, you know, make sure that they have downtime, whatever.
Mhm.
I'm like, no, put that puppy on a leash and let the kids drag it all over. Like, that's what my kid does. Like, they're usually leash broke by the time they leave because my kids drug it all over the yard. Like, I mean, she has, like, that's real. And I think that that's something that breeders aren't, I feel like breeders hide stuff so much, especially in shepherds. And I don't know why, you know, like,
Yeah, I see so
they're,
many breeders are overwhelmed and they're always feel like they're failing at something. And I think
yeah.
it
And so they're just not
leads you to be
open.
embarrassed. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just not open. And it's like, no, my kid drags these puppies all over the yard. Like, they run all over.
Mhm.
And I tell them, just let them drag them all over. If the kids are outside, kick that puppy outside with the kids.
Mhm.
Like, let them. It's okay. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's, I
And I think
think,
you get to that place where you can tell when the puppy's overtired and you can take a break, fine. But I agree with you. The kids are such
yeah,
just that general, let's have fun, let's wear you out, let's learn new things. And yeah.
yeah. Honestly, I think that puppies raised by kids are so much more robust, honestly. My litters raised by Bren are so much, like, they're so much hardier and confident. I mean, my gosh, like,
Yeah.
these puppies are, they're fearless because they've been put down a pirate slide like at 5 weeks old. Like, I mean, they've been swinging at 6. Like,
Yeah.
they, it's just, they've had kid stuff done to them. It's great.
Oh yeah. You guys could meet Bren. She is the coolest kid. I'll take her anytime.
She's wild. She wants to own a cheetah, so
Nice. That's great. Yeah, that makes sense. And no, too, it's interesting because we were talking a little bit about the culture and how all breeds have their own breed culture. And tell us a little bit too, because I noticed um I find in working with breeders of all breeds that German Shepherd culture is kind of one of the toughest. Poodles in show world can be really rough, but German Shepherds are right there, if not worse. Can you tell us a little bit like where that comes from or what that's like?
it is rough. It is. It's rough. Like, shepherd people are shepherd people are some of the quickest to turn on their own.
Yeah.
There's some of the most like vicious, mean people you will meet. they can be really horrible, but on the flip side, they can be some of the most kind, giving,
Hmm.
amazing people you will meet too.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I
I
think that.
think
Yeah, where's that
I
come
think
from?
I think it comes I think it comes from you're taking people when, especially when you're looking at like um, working line shepherds specifically, you're taking these highly driven dogs, which attract these highly driven competitive people.
Yeah.
And competitive people usually have an ego, whether it's a little bit or a lot, but an ego in some way. Um, and you put them all in one circle.
Right.
And then we're all supposed to get along.
That's true. And they would not get along under one roof at a dinner table generally. So that makes sense.
Well, I mean, no, like they definitely don't.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely accounts of not getting along under one roof. It's, I mean, organizations don't get along. There's whole organizations that don't get along, not even just infighting within one organization. There's literal organizations within the breed that don't get along.
Yeah.
Like it it's really sad when you really look at it. Like that we're not talking like that's just within the working lines. Like then you add in like the West German show lines and then the American show lines. Like nobody gets along within it.
Mhm.
It's there's toxicity within every single breed community within the shepherds.
Yeah.
It's really disappointing, but just as much as the toxicity exists, I think you do find um, there's a huge group, I think, in each section
Mm.
of shepherd that there is a huge group of really great people.
Yeah.
Um, I just think that those people have been more silenced um, in more recent years because the other people are louder on social media.
Okay. That makes sense. Keyboard warriors. Yeah.
And I think that it becomes a problem.
Yeah. So you've
Um,
found that maybe the newer model of things and communication and that has actually kind of been a detriment to the breed. It's a little bit less
yeah,
integrated.
I think it's definitely been a detriment to the breed. I think it's been a detriment to the dog community as a whole, honestly. Um, yeah, I
I think in a lot
do.
of ways.
It's it's kind of sad. Um, I think that I'm hoping to see a change. I think that there will be a change.
Yeah.
Um, it'll be interesting. I I hope that there is one soon. um,
I'm seeing this newer generation is, to me, they seem like they're, I think like
yeah,
our kids, I'll put it that way. Like our kids are starting to come back in a different way. Like the kids that are 18, 20 now seem to have almost be a throwback to a little bit more, less
yeah,
social media driven in a way that I feel like the generation between maybe the millennials. I know I'm on the line. I'm
yeah,
technically a Gen X, but I think in that window, I've just seen that they got really kind of delicate for a while. They were victim. Yeah.
yeah. I think that I think you're right. I think from the teenagers down, I think it'll be a whole different generation
Yeah.
than what we have from the teenagers to like the 30-ish year olds. That generation, I think it'll be an interesting ride with them.
And there's a ton of breeders, just to put it
So
out there, because people will be listening and be like, Julie, what do you mean? But it's like, no, I mean, I meet incredible breeders in
yeah.
20 to 30 range all the
Oh
time. Like
yeah.
there's tons of amazing people in there and they're super savvy on websites and social media. And so
Yeah.
they're making killing doing that. But I have noticed,
there's amazing
yeah,
people in all, like, there's no
yeah.
absolute in anything.
No, there's
So
just this group though that you have found. It's like a subsector of it, and they
yeah,
just have been a little bit more delicate, and they're a little bit more prone to be reactive publicly in a way that
yes,
maybe wasn't acceptable in the previous generation, and I'm not seeing it as much in the newest generation.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think that they exist a little bit more in shepherds for whatever reason.
Right.
But if you think about it, shepherds tend to be more reactive. So it would make sense that they attract a little more reactive person.
I think people like,
Um,
do you
People
remember that?
kind of are like their dogs. If you really think
Yeah.
about it, I
It-
really believe that. Like people are gonna be like, oh, you're weird, but um I really feel that, I really feel that people really represent the breeds that they own in
I
some
think
way.
do you remember that
So
cartoon, 101 Dalmatians? Do you remember the first scene when like Pongo's staring out the window and he sees all these women walking their dogs and they all look identical to their dogs? And I thought that was
yes,
such a funny joke in because it's very
but
true.
it's really true. It really is true. Like I really do feel that way. And if you really watch, like honestly, like shepherd, if you think about it, like usually like shepherd owners are kind of like we're not usually like real laid back kind of people. Like, I mean,
No.
sorry, shepherd owners. Like, I love you all, but I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are some out there that are
Right.
saying,
They're gonna
I'm
say
laid
no.
back. And I'm sure you are, but I'm laid back too sometimes. But as a rule,
Right.
it's,
They're a little bit
I
more
can,
fire in there. Yeah.
yeah, there's just a little bit, exactly. There's just a little bit more fight in
Mhm.
there than others. Like, I really feel like that though.
It makes sense. And I think that is one thing to think about, for new breeders looking at picking a breed or for breeders
Yeah.
looking at narrowing down their ideal puppy buyer to be in a more specific section
Yeah.
of, demographic. You can see because you have your pet people and you have your working dog people and they're very
Yeah.
different, right?
Extremely different.
Yeah.
You have to really decide like if you can handle dealing with that type of person like for the life of that dog.
Exactly.
So
Right. Yeah, I do find that it is a little bit more feisty. I notice that a lot of times like I'll have the same situation happen, a dog will have like, I don't know, so they'll be confused about something and they'll want to blame us as breeders, right? So they
oh
cause,
yeah,
but the
always.
way I get blamed is definitely different than the way you get blamed. And we did the same thing and the same thing happened. And it's just the personality of the people, and I totally get it. Cause,
Yeah.
the GSP people are kind of like, woo, yeah, whatever. Like they're
Yeah.
very much that way.
Yeah. Like with you know, you have dogs that don't pass a hip, like, oh my gosh, it's my fault. It's like both parents had passing hips. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. Like, it's genetics. Like, I can give you a new puppy out of a different litter. Like, I don't know what to tell you,
Right.
Like,
And sometimes
so
there's so many things too that like we know I've seen with shepherds, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've seen with shepherds that how the environment seems to be a lot more of an effect on shepherds. Like you could keep a dog in shape on the right food and do things and they won't have problems.
it, I, yeah, I really agree with that because I will be absolutely 100% open. Ted has bad hips. Ted has bad hips. Ted had an oops litter, which I know you know Geary from.
Yeah.
Um, so Ted, uh, but Ted will jump a 6 foot kennel from a sit. Literally, from a
Yeah.
sit. Like he springs over a 6 foot kennel from a sit.
And he doesn't have any physical
He
problem
does. He does
from
not
this
limp.
quote unquote poor test. Yes.
He does not limp. He runs the whole property, which is 3 acres fenced. He does not ever take a lame step unless he has a goat head in his foot. Like
Yeah.
He is in absolute amazing shape.
But it's just his testing score that didn't come back nice.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't send them in. Like they're bad enough, but now is that because by the time I did his hips, like his hip x-rays, that dog had been jumping fences for 3 years?
Yeah, maybe.
You know,
Oh,
is it that? I don't know. He did have an oops litter.
yeah.
So, which obviously it was an oops litter, it wasn't bland. Um, Everyone would have, I didn't keep a puppy from that litter. I wish I would have. I got one back that I had in a co-own, that I have in a co-own. But, and I bred her this last summer. So I have a puppy from her, but I didn't keep one from that litter at my house. But I tested her. So I did her hips, and I did another puppy out of the litter's hips. And they both came back good. And then the male out of the two males out of that litter came back good. And so I went ahead and bred the female that I have in a co-own. I bred her this last summer. So a lot of breeders wouldn't have bred her. And I know this, and I'll probably get so much hate for this online. It's not even going to be funny, but that's okay. But what that pedigree brought to my program is we're so much more than throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
I kind of agree. And with the temperament,
So,
Ed, like he's such a gem.
yeah, he really is.
I know that you were really good with training him, but I just feel like he's cut from a different thing. Like he's just incredible. And it feels wrong to just be like, oh, these are borderline and this is just gone, this whole bloodline dead. And I don't know, I don't know that I guess one thing that's been brewing over the last few years as I've been working with so many breeders is how many breeds just get genetically cut off because
Yeah.
of borderline hips or hips that test poorly but don't seem to functionally affect the dog.
Yeah, and it's, we can cut our nose off to spite our face a lot of times. So I, like I said, the mom, so Ted's daughter tested good. So her hips came back good. Pen hipped good.
Good.
So yeah. The and then the puppy that I have that I kept back from that litter will be tested. And then the sire I used was pen hip too. And hopefully the puppy from them will hopefully, cross my fingers, be good. But I think that by not testing Ted's daughter and using her just because Ted had bad hips, I think that I would have been doing a disservice, because not only was everyone that got a puppy from that oops litter super happy with their dogs, like I haven't said a lot about that litter, but literally my co-own, even though that relationship is not copacetic at the moment, she is in an absolutely wonderful home and they absolutely adore her. She is an amazing dog and she's in a great place. Geary is doing great, and she's everything that he had asked for. Like the other male is actually a working dog in Illinois. Like the whole litter is just doing so well.
Right. And they're
And
old enough now because they're what, 2, 3 years old that you would know they would
they're
start to see problems and they just haven't had one.
yeah, they'll be 3 in February,
Yeah.
and they're just really fantastic. They're just really fantastic dogs, all of them. And so I I really like the puppies that I have from that female. I really like the temperaments of the puppies that I got.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that I did it. Like, a lot of people were questioning why. Um, I bred her because Ted had bad hips, and well, he's her dad, and that's, there's the possibility. And the thing is I could breed two excellent breeded dogs together and get two dysplastic dogs. So,
Which is
there's that
something you
possibility.
definitely see. I see that. I see that same story in Goldens. I see that story
Yeah.
in Shepherds. I see that story in a couple breeds, like where the testing is not as indicative of the result as it is with other breeds.
Yeah, it happens. So, I'm very glad that I did it. I'm
Yeah.
very glad that I did it, and I'm really pleased with the outcome. Like I said, I'll probably get a lot of hate for it, and I'm okay with that. I'm yeah, I'm really happy with where I'm at in my breeding, in my program, with what I'm doing, like where I'm headed towards, like with the temperaments that I'm getting in my dogs. Like, my goal has always been a really versatile shepherd that can be a family dog, but also go and work. And I think that every dog I have at my house that's a shepherd can do both, every single dog.
Yeah.
And, I think that that's not only a testament to those dogs breeding, but, a testament to their training and them. Like, they're, they're awesome.
You're
And
getting what you put out, like what you put out to get. Like you really, they are,
yeah,
they
I
come
feel
full.
like I'm right there, like where I want to be. So
Mhm.
I'm happy with where I'm at with the shepherds for sure.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And we only have a little bit of time left, but
Yeah.
you had told me that you had some good co-owns and some bad co-owns. Could you share a little bit of those experiences and what you learned, what you would do different, more like to
Yeah.
help people moving forward?
Yeah. Um, I've always been a big proponent of co-owns, because I really feel like a good co-own can really help a breeder.
Mhm.
Because
How do you run a co-own? Like what does that look like for you?
so I do mine a little different than most breeders. With a co-own for me, I give the co-owner the dog.
Mhm.
There's no money exchanged. I will give them the dog. You we either, depends on what we decide on beforehand, either we split a couple litters, or you give me a few puppies, depending on what I want. It depends on what I'm looking for out of that particular dog or bloodline.
Yeah.
um so it really depends on the pedigree for me. Like, if I'm just looking for, if I'm looking to really retain
Mhm.
a lot out of a certain pedigree, like,
Yeah.
and hold back a lot, then I might split litters.
Kind of to keep your
Um,
options open.
yeah, if I'm looking to just, like, maybe just hold back one or two for myself, then I might just want like a couple puppies out of like a couple litters, like the first two litters or something. Um, and then that's really it. Then I sign the dog over, and then I'm done.
Yeah.
Um,
Easy.
yeah, it really lets me
They're
just
not
keep,
they're not really vested in the outcome of the breeding, right? So in a way, it's kind of like a guardian home.
depending. Usually I try and give my co-owns to sport homes.
Oh, okay.
So
So they are
usually,
vested in that.
yeah, usually I try and give my co-owns to like other sport homes that are going to like title the dog, or like do something that's going to add to the puppy's value or something like
Yeah.
that. So I'll get kind of some return in return for giving them the puppy for free,
Mhm.
kind of thing. So there's kind of, I get kind of a return
Yeah.
more
It's
than
just
just the
different.
puppies.
That's just not financial.
Yeah, it's just a little bit different. Um, So usually I try and find a sport home for something like that. Or one of my poor friends, if I really um, if I really want to keep a puppy close and make sure that I'm going to be able to access that pedigree in the future.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just, contracts are enforceable, but you also have to have the ability to pay a lawyer, to go through the court fees, to go through the court costs to enforce that contract. So when you do a cone, you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So always keep that in mind in the back of your head when you go into a co-own. Am I going to want to go to court, enforce this contract if this goes south?
Yeah, that makes sense. As a way to say, and I've always thought too that if they were like dogs you have to have, I feel like they have to be under your roof. So you have to have this dog, you need to keep it. But if it would be nice to have, that to me feels like where you can play. What do you think?
It I agree with that to a point. Like before I would have said like, oh no, you could, but I recently I had purchased a dog for a large amount of money, a started dog. And she already had her health testing done, hips, a breeding title done. She was well started in bite work, obedience, like pretty much bring her over, spend 6 weeks and go title her kind of thing. And so and she was bred when I picked her up. She was Salty's mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I whelped her, and I didn't feel I had the time to title her, and I placed her in a co-own because they were going to have more time, and life happens, and they just didn't end up having the time that they were supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up having to get her back, and ended up, needing to find her a different situation anyway, because I still don't have the time anyway. So it's, and there's a little more to it, and there's, that kind of thing. And it didn't sour me on co-owns.
Yeah.
But I think that I will be more I will be a little more selective about like you said, if I have to have this for my program, then I will need to keep it under my roof.
Yeah. Or maybe a more strict assessment of their situation and ability to perform.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, or a longer time period watching the situation before placement or something too, something like that. But
I have noticed that people are, oh, we got all the time in the world. And then two things change and all of a sudden they have no time.
yeah. Or they get in and they start to realize like how much work the training actually is.
Yeah.
And they get overwhelmed, and that's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. How does it work with payment?
So,
Have them pay for training? Is that because they got the dog for free?
so like in this case, they just pay their club dues.
Okay.
And then they work her under their club dues. So, but like in this case, all the vet care, like all the vet records and all that kind of stuff was under me.
Got it. Okay.
So
They do vary a
yeah.
little bit. So that makes sense. I think sometimes that
Yeah.
approach is nice anyway.
Yeah. And it depends. Like, and even having like a bad experience, having to take one back, like it's never fun. It's not fun on either end. Like, I never want to make someone unhappy, I never want to make someone sad, like that kind of thing. I have so many other good co-owns, successful, and unfortunately, they also have the mom to the litter that I did this summer. Yeah. And I stupidly didn't do a contract because we were supposed to be friends.
Well done it.
This is a lesson, guys. Just because they're friends, always do contracts. Yeah. And so I, unfortunately will have lost the ability to do another breeding or anything like that in the future. And so that's a pedigree that I really wanted to have in my kennel, and I won't, which is okay. Everything happens for a reason, and it'll, everything's meant to be the way it is for a reason. So I have many more good co-owns than I do failed.
Yeah.
And even though I have that recently failed co-own, I sent my pick of the litter female from my black and tan litter that I had over the summer, actually out to my friend in Iowa just a month ago to co-own. Her son's going to use her for FFA, for his FFA dog.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah. And so it's pretty exciting. And she has a great home, and it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So for every bad one, there's always going to be a good one too. And I could say, there's going to be bad ones, and I'm never going to do another co-own again because, this happened. But I think that I would be cutting my nose off to spite my face because, I've had a lot of people give me a chance. And even some people give me a chance when I maybe didn't deserve it. And I think that had I not had that happen, I wouldn't be where I was. So I don't want to deny someone that in the future.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why I will keep doing co-owns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just keeps the door open, right?
That's the only way people are going to learn and grow.
Yeah. Any advice for new breeders starting out? Anything?
Just keep learning and be open. Yeah. You got to be open to everything.
Yeah.
Don't get stuck.
Yeah. So if something's not working, look for an alternative. Don't just.
Yeah. Don't get stuck. There's a million ways out there. Don't get stuck. If something's not working, just don't try and force it just because someone said, this is going to work. Just because it worked for them, don't mean it's going to work for you. Mm-hmm. Find your own way. Don't be scared.
That's good. I agree with you completely. Yeah. There's no breeding program is the same, ever. So find a way that works. There's a lot of techniques, but find what works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Courtney, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.